Good morning and thanks for having us. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. We have 4 selections for you. The first one is Magic Flea, the Count Basie Library, and then another Count Basie Library tune, Billy Byers' arrangement of All of Me, and then a Thad Jones composition called Woman's Got Soul, and we'll close with On Green Dolphin Street, Les Hooper's arrangement. Thank you.
all of me. Can't you see I'm no good without you? Take my lips, I want to lose them. Oh, take my arms, I'll never use them. Your goodbyes left me with eyes that I cry. How can I go on without you? You took the part that once was my heart, so why not take all of me? Yeah! Your goodbyes left me with eyes that cry. How can I go on, dear, without you? You took the best, so why not take the rest? Oh, baby, please take all of me. Give it away. Count Basie.
That's Adam Bender on the vocals and the flute. Mark Slim on the Hammond SK2. We tried to check the B3 at the airport, and they said it was oversized, so we the next best thing. On our first tune, Magic Flea, also Andrew Slimmer on tenor sax. Rayvon Haggerty on tenor. Mike Appleton on the flute. And we've got a gentleman who's coming up to the microphone right now. In addition to being a great drummer and percussionist and bass player, he's also a wonderful singer. I'd like to introduce you to Antonio Reyes. Testing.
Looking woman, yeah, I ever did see. Don't have the charms of the ladies in high society, but the woman that I hold, yeah, she's got to have a soul. And all the love that I hold belongs to a woman with soul. Just a regular fella, and I don't need much. I don't need no fancy Cadillac cars and diamonds and such. But the woman I hold, she's got to have soul. And then I'm richer than the richest. My baby's got soul. Well, I don't need a woman that's got a whole lot of class. Cause class and a woman don't mean she's gonna last. Yeah, I need the kind of woman I can hold real tight. She puts her arms around me and I can get without a fight. Then I know my baby's got soul. With all the silver and gold. And then the richest gold. Cause my baby's got soul. Yeah, my baby's got soul. Oh, she got so much soul, she don't know what to do with it. Yeah, my baby's got soul. Oh yeah, she can cook, she can cook. Oh, she can cook. Oh yeah, good on. Yeah, my baby's got some soul. You know my baby's got soul. You know my baby's got soul.
Reyes. He's got a reversible jacket, but I think he's just going to take the jacket off. Go with that. Billy Winston on alto saxophone. And a little excerpt from Richard Honus on the plunger trumpet earlier on. We'd like to conclude our portion of our set with On Green Dolphin Street, Les Hooper. Selection. The soloists again, Billy Winston on that. Joe Strauss on the drums. Tony Casper on the trumpet. Ensemble on the congas. Michael Sly on the guitar. And Antonio Reyes. Thank you.
I was going to say, one thing that came to my mind pretty early on in your set is they hadn't. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
No.
Use a mic.
Yeah. Okay. One of the thoughts that occurred to me pretty early on in your set is I was thinking, if they hadn't told me that you guys were from Kansas City and they just asked me to listen to this band and for a few minutes and guess where you're from, I would have said Kansas City. But that's a great compliment, by the way, because you guys have a lot of the spirit and the essence in the music that comes out of that region, and I really appreciate the spirit you guys are putting into it. First of all, I think without that you can't really do too much. So kudos for obviously checking out the roots of where you guys are based and paying some homage to that to an extent that I definitely definitely took notice. I appreciate it. The first comment I wrote was maybe just because I'm a rhythm section player, I tend to focus more on that. The first thing I wrote is bass player, nice hump, great hump on that beat. It starts from the ground up, and you guys have a great bass player, and he's laying it down on every tune. And so, and that energy I feel is contagious a lot of the time, and it's you guys are doing a good job in general feeding off of that. Drums, you guys in general locked in pretty well with the bass and guitar. There's some moments where it loses a little bit of focus. I noticed that in general, both drummers and sometimes you guys will rush your fills. Fills will have a little lack of clarity sometimes. So just be aware of that. Actually, just in general, like rushing of phrases and figures, I noticed that kind of throughout the band at certain points, especially anytime like the energy gets really high and like loud, people get really kind of amped up. Just be careful not to rush the into your phrases. Having like a nice steady flow and like conviction and commitment to the feel of the subdivision is a sign of a great sign of maturity that you guys are still. I know you're still working on it. You guys are still a young band, but just try to just keep the groove going and don't get like sidetracked, you know. And the drummer can do a lot to help you guys kind of rein that in and kind of just police you sometimes in those spots. There was a few moments, particularly like I noticed in like Magic Flea, there's some pretty scary like long like 8-bar, 12-bar like drum breaks, and then there's a couple like I think there was a moment in this last chart where the drummer had like a 4-bar lead in. There were a couple of spots where it's like at the end of the fill, you guys did like a roll leading up into like a big shout section. That's probably in my opinion, you know, no offense, but that's like probably not like one of the least helpful things you can do because it doesn't convey any rhythm. So on those moments you're coming out of an event, you know, a drum fill is not really an opportunity for the drummer to show off their chops. It's an opportunity to get the ensemble from point A to B. And so you have to think about it a little more practically. So just be aware of that when you're making your musical choices in the ensemble, especially during shout sections, especially during you know, coming out of forms, the ends and phrases, big landmarks in the charts. Just be aware of that.
That 8-bar phrase was pretty disguised, so I don't think so I wrote down.
Yeah, it kind of threw me off a little bit, you know.
And the band paid for that. You know, it wasn't tight.
Yeah. Great percussion. This percussion thing was killing at Green Album Street. I love that. Let's see, I'm just going to go through a couple of things I wrote down here. On the first tune, the rhythm section, one of the things that would help to make it lock in a little better is on the balance and the kit, just more intensity in general on your ride cymbal. Actually, this goes for both drummers and for every chart. There were some moments where I really felt like you guys were really getting into kind of really like spanking the beat a little bit more, you know? Just try to do that every time you play your drums. Like, really have conviction and like intensity. It doesn't mean loud, it just means more intense, more conviction. Yeah, and about the ensemble, I said that you know, despite the energy, it was often in full ensemble sections too loose, and it can be kind of splatty at times. Is what I wrote. So just be careful not to, especially the lead players. Lead players have a lot to do with just the clarity of the sound. So just make sure that your lines are not like cacking or like getting splatty, especially like brass, right? I noticed it more in the brass. And so you guys have to kind of really nail your parts and have a lot of clarity, and I have a lot of like, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about the articulation and the phrasing that goes into that. So that's a lot of just like, you know, personal practice, like working out how you're gonna articulate things and deciding, you know, these three guys lined up have to decide exactly how they're gonna articulate their phrases, and then everyone else will come in to the middle, support that, listen in the middle, and also in general the brass. There's a lot of times, especially ensemble sections, where there was a lot of intonation issues I noticed in the brass. And I felt like I heard it more in the inner parts, not so much the principal parts, okay? So just, you know, just be very aware of that and really listen into your lead players for intonation. Let's see, I love the rep. I love this, what was the name of that third tune? Woman's Got Soul? I never heard that, that's awesome. That's Thad Jones. Great singing. Check out some Joe Williams, maybe? Just a little bit? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, the great pocket on that. I thought maybe that tune could be a little more, just again, a little bit more intense, maybe like more of a shuffle kind of a thing. Maybe like a little more on the snare, like shuffly, just for my taste. In general, the solos were good. A lot of enthusiasm. I felt like, in general, the solos, my criticism would be that I said that they seemed a little too wandering at times. So there was a little lack of focus. Some of you guys have a lot of chops, and you like obviously know your scales, but it kind of sounded like half the time like random scales. It didn't sound like you were playing like, you know, like a riff, but then using some repetition, some, you know, think of a solo more sometimes as like theme and variations rather than just like, I'm gonna play a bunch of scales, you know? So just be a little more aware of that, focus on improvising more clear melodic ideas. And it doesn't have to be like, you know, super busy. It can be something, a lot of these charts will lend themselves to playing just kind of, you know, simple ideas for starters, to get you going. Yeah, I think that's trying to think of anything else. Yeah, that's kind of my general comments. Any questions? Any questions about that stuff? Whether I would, and if I follow up about that. I thought it was kind of cool that you guys had some different takes on this. Like with the All of Me, you started off with like an organ thing. That was cool. Personally, I like that chart too, and I liked how you guys went right into it. I kind of felt like I was in a jazz club. Like they just went right into the second tune, didn't wait. It had like a cool progression. Like the whole. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of dead space in the set. I was like pretty enthralled the whole time. There wasn't a lot of I wasn't waiting for something. You guys were just bringing it at me, which I like that. I like that that progression. Personally, I would like to have the whole rhythm section play on that. That's just an aesthetic thing for me, because I like to hear, you know, maybe like brushes and bass, and the bass like walking in the higher register, you know, kind of like when Thad Mel's band would play like Groove Merchant or something, like with like a really soft but intense, like, you know, instead of that personally. And on those moments, on All of Me, I could use more guitar. Not more guitar volume on your amp, more guitar volume, more intensity. Can I just do the top of that chart, actually? Just the way I described it with maybe some brushes instead, just to talk about just general, just get the pocket going. And this kind of idea will apply to everything you guys do. So yeah, either brushes or like hi-hat, you know, just soft. And then you go ahead and play. And then just chunk a little bit louder at the top. Yeah, just play like a chorus up front so I can hear it, okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool, great. All right, yeah, that's good. I would maybe do even less amp, and just more like, think about like, you think it's a washboard, not a guitar. It's a washboard. And then you can play a little bit more intensely on the, like imagine you're playing a snare drum like it's a ride cymbal, and it's a washy ride cymbal, and you still need to have it be clear. And then you can be, don't change your volume, but a little more accent there. Like, you know, a little more point, just a little more point, especially when you're higher register. When you're playing soft, it doesn't necessarily mean sacrifice the intensity, right? And then, just then, I figure it was rushed, okay? Do dot. Everyone do that. I want you to say do dot with a T at the end. Do dot. D-A-A-A-A-H-H-T. D dot. Okay? Let's do 3 bars before you come in. You know what I mean? The last 4 bars of the form. Or the second A, right? So whatever that is. First A. Yeah, you know what I mean. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Think triplets. Okay, a whole band. The upper brass is in there too, right? Trumpets? Yeah. Let's hear more principal players. And a little less Barry. Okay, just try to balance a little more. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, and. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so just that thing, just playing more like do dot. If you do that kind of concept universally on the majority of this music, that kind of idea, that idea of clarity, take it and transfer it to virtually everything you play, and just not everything, but like, you know, that idea, that intent, that conviction, and you will go a lot farther in terms of like having like a more cohesive ensemble. And I'm sure we'll talk about that some more.
What I missed too was that you never played again after the beginning, you know, but you should have, like when he was playing the flute song, Little Phil, or when he was singing, I mean, like Little Phil's, you know, having the organ sound come back again would be beginning and then it kind of went away.
Oh, another thing that you guys did that was unconventional, but also hip, was you guys had the flute instead of piano solo at Magic Flute, right? Or Magic Flute, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, on Magic
Oh,
Flute, we had the
yeah.
flute.
Yeah. This was
It was, oh, yeah. So it was like a flute solo. Yeah, so I would, you know, whenever I'm playing a piece of music that's something like iconic, like Basie or Woody Herman or Glenn Miller, I try to really like check out that music and this is, again, this is a personal thing. I mean, what you did was great, but if I was tasked to do that, I would think like, okay, well, how would Count Basie play this? I mean, it's I know, you know, it's a flute, it's not a piano, but like maybe play it maybe in that idiom a little bit more, you know? So actually, like maybe like shorter notes, because he's kind of like tinkling on the piano, right? So you have this opportunity to kind of create that vibe with your instrument, which is really cool. You know what I mean? So think about it that way, like, you know, I'm always thinking on the drums. I'm thinking like a lot of times like a trombone player, because I grew up in a family of brass players, and I just grew up listening to the trombone, and my dad plays trumpet, and I think like a brass player, and I think that's why I have a lot of success sometimes. Interpreting brass figures, because I'm literally singing everything that the band is playing in my head as I play every chart. So I'm like trying to internalize that, and I'm articulating inside myself like on the drums. Okay, so like have that, you know, intent, and sometimes I'll try to think like, you know, try to empathize with the guitar player or the bass player, and just by like kind of thinking outside of my role, it helps me to by thinking outside of myself, it makes me be a better player, because I'm a more emphatic player, right? Empathetic player.
I think that all flute players, you know, play on the style. If you play an orchestral flute, you're not going to cut off the tone in round notes. But this style calls for square notes. So you actually can cut the tone on the flute. Don't tell your teacher. Yeah.
You have anything? How much time do we have?
Approximately. You got another 21 minutes.
Oh, good. Oh, we've got so much time. Okay. Oh, here, you can talk for a while.
Great stuff, David. Let's go back to all of you there for a second and fix that. That big burst is not happening whatsoever, and there's some reasons, fundamental reasons for it, and it has to do with what's going on with the whole performance. I got a lot of things I feel like I could help you with, but when I'm in a situation like this with limited time, it's like, okay, what are the biggest priorities? I think the biggest priority for this horn section is, number one, tone production. We're not producing good sounds on the instruments. If you're not producing a good sound, you're not going to play in tune, and then you're not going to have any power, because intonation problems cut the power in half or less. And so what's happening right there is, I don't hear any evidence of really solid tone production, and I don't hear air happening, and I don't hear intonation, and so there's no way you're going to have it. Have you heard the original bass recording? It's startling, right? That wasn't startling, it's like a little anticlimactic. Let's see if we can figure out what we got to do about that. So,
Let me hear the trumpets play that now. Jack, you play lead trumpet. Let me hear you play that. Is that really where that note is? Yeah, I guess so. Okay. So it's not really within your range.
That's right top.
Yeah. And you're like, you know, to try to get this thing, where are your flutes? The brass and the flute are very much similar in that you can't get the sound. I can read the
No.
You can't get the sound by going pulling like this. It's going to spread your harmony in a way that thinking about it happens. Instead, the trumpet players talk about the same thing. That instead of squeaking it out by going like this, you're actually bringing your mouth focused toward the center and let the air do the work. I don't hear the air do the work. The day that I started growing as a wind player was the day that I realized that 95% of playing a wind instrument is the wind. Surprise! And we've got to get some wind. These instruments eat air for breakfast. You're starving the four instruments to death. See if you can open up a little bit here, and then play from your stomach. Take a full breath. I call it pulling the swing back. You pull the swing back, and you get people really, we get some excitement going there, right? What happens if I just pull the swing back 6 inches and let go? Really big thrills, right? Or, that's kind of what the issue we're having. We got to take full breaths, pull the swing back. Then you put a lot more natural body weight. Can you try that? Just pull the swing back, open up here, and see if you can let the power of your air do more of the work. Ready? Okay. Anybody else that day that kind of range? Can you play it there? Yeah. Okay. Maybe you should be playing lead on that. So you worked out that. I don't know. We got to have that kind of talk. We don't have that on the top. So we really need that on the top. Let me hear you play it again. And take a full breath. Open up your oral cavity. Open up here. Keep your teeth apart. Ready? Yeah. Okay. All right. That's all right. But see, that's what I'm talking about in tone production. You got to open up here and let it happen instead of kind of choking it out. I hear that even in the saxophone. Do you find that? I never heard the listening. I heard him more than I heard you. That doesn't mean I didn't like your solo on the last 10. But I wish for more lead alto in the saxophone section all the time. Can you play that for me? You're playing pretty high now. If you play up here, you're choking your sound to pieces. Can you do that? Finger high D. The ground roll can't loosen. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Just take that first note. Play the big one. Play it 5 cents flatter. Lower. Lower. You hear you're getting more sound? Yeah. This is true for all the wind instruments, brass players too. As you flow down into the sound, you're going to fatten up your sound a lot, and you're going to play better in tune. and this would be I think you got to start with tone production. Basic stuff, right? How did you play that last figure? Right? Is that what you played? Yeah. But how should it be played? What did David just talk about? He said, do dot! The T on the end. Can you do that? No. You're going, it don't go bump. It has a decay in it, and there's a roundness on the end. What kind of shape do we need on this kind of a tune? Square. Not. You do it and go, do dot. Bitter? Now you only get full credit for a tongue cut off if the pressure's totally up when the tongue hits. You're kind of going, and then your tongue came on it, but you were halfway down. That's only partial credit for a tongue cut. Try it again. Pressure's up. Better. My band played yesterday. That's Thursday. Tuesday night, we flew Wednesday. Tuesday night, we had a rehearsal after. the only one we had after Christmas. And I went down the row at the beginning of the rehearsal, and I had every trumpet player cut with the tongue, had every trombone player cut with the tongue, had every saxophone player cut with the tongue. Why did I do that? I spent 45 minutes at a high school one time, invited there as a guest in the morning to work with the band, and I spent 45 minutes on getting everybody in the band cutting with the tongue. I think the band director was getting a little ticked off at me. But you know something, I heard that band 6 weeks later, and the band sounded a lot better. You can't speak this language unless you understand that we have square shapes. If you're playing classically, you play boom, boom, round shape. You have an M on the end of every note. Boom. If you play on this music, there's a T on the end. But you have to decide if you're a bum or a butt. What's that? Go through an ensemble. That's what I want to do right here. Is this piece, this thing you brought up? I want to do it. Let me hear a trombone player do it. Okay, you look like this.
Yeah, sorry.
It starts with good sound production. Sit up, take a breath, full breath, open up here, play with the sound, with some air. Can you give me that last note was not a tongue cut off. That was an orchestral or concert band cut off. No, that didn't cut with the tongue. Hold that note. Just your last note. Just keep the air going. Yeah, pressure still up, tongue hits. Now we're starting to get there. Ready again. Pressure's got to be more up. Play with more air. This is basic stuff, but if the band doesn't take on this talent, you're not going to sound like it. Would you do this with me on that? I'd like you to do it with the breath strings, just like I just did. Okay, we're going to take a big breath. Let's get the right pitch in mind. Is that it? No. Is that it? That's your note. What's your note? What's your note? I mean, sorry, the lead note.
Concert C.
Concert C. That's it for the open. So, just sing that with me. Da do da like that. 1, 2, 3. Da do da. Not do that, do that. It's gonna be swinging. So one more time. 1, 2, 3. Da do that, do that. See, in my mind, that's not exactly a rushing problem. That's a problem with understanding what swing is. Do that. Yeah, it sounds like it rushes because it doesn't swing. Do that. For the swing, you got to put a lot of length in the downbeat. Do that. Play that up. I can get into a lot of stuff. Let's try it. Let's sing it. 1, 2, 3. Da, do that. Now do that. Just do that. 1, 2. Do that. 1, 2. Do that. Now do it with the airstring. Full breath. And take a breath before the last thing. You wouldn't normally do that, but with this you're going to have to take a breath. 1, 2. One more time. 1, 2. I can barely hear you. I think I'm loud. One more time. Give me some sound. 1, 2. That's 1, 2. Okay. Let's play it. Now, it's not going to make any difference to play it because you didn't blow. It's too simple. You have to blow it, or you're not going to do it on the fly. One more time. I want you to get your air to the back of the room. Part my hair, Mr. Cook. That's going to be hard. Right. One more time. 2. Big breath. 2. Slow. Twice that loud. 1, 2. Better. Now double it again. Big breath. 1, 2. getting to some kind of a level. Now let me hear you play. Take a full breath and play like that. 1, 2. Okay, now we've got to get some range that's all back there, but that's a lot more of an ensemble thing when we get some air going. Let's do it one more time. 2, 1, 2. Now see, the intonation up there is killing us. That's the next thing. Once you get a sound going, then you got to work on pitch. How do you work on pitch? You wanted to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think this is going to take a lot of, that kind of stuff he's talking about. It's going to take a lot of personal practice time, obviously, those fundamentals.
It's band practice time too, though. You have to worry about this in the ensemble version.
But
every day you practice, you do work on tone and you work on playing with string. We getting it going.
yeah, but a lot of those fundamentals, you do have to spend a lot of time individually, like working those out, getting, working your range, working on your intonation. Spend time with the tuner, like every day, and make sure to check, play your scales with the tuner. The guys in our band are really, and everyone know, we're very particular about things like this, articulation, intonation, to an extreme degree, I feel like sometimes.
You want any kind of a product, you have to.
And the guys, we don't spend time working on too much on that stuff in rehearsal because everyone has the exact same conception, 95% of the time. It's more like we talk about note lengths a lot. So that kind of goes in. That's related to articulation, but not just like how you play the note, but how, like, if you have a note, how long exactly to cut it off. If it's a long note, like, of course you want to articulate it with a tongue cutoff, but when? Like, if is it off on 1, off on the and of 4? So we sometimes our band has a practice of often we'll have a long note, we'll release it actually half beat early, so it actually has that much more clarity and like daylight, So just we're really cognizant of anytime we have an opportunity to put a little silence between the notes for clarity's sake, and for the sake of clearly communicating the music, we do it. So just be really aware of that stuff in the ensemble setting and when you're personally practicing your parts. And also and you guys have already done this, you've checked out all of the music, all these recordings, and context determines everything. That's something that my big band director at college always said. He would always say, like, context determines everything. So the bassy band will articulate and play notes, the articulations, the dynamics, the subdivision of the ride cymbal will be different on a bassy chart, maybe, than it is on a, like a Duke Ellington chart, or a Thad Jones chart, right? Or something modern, something like really like that was written yesterday. You have to be very aware of the context that you're playing in. This is not a universal thing. What we're talking about, we're talking about something specific to this chart. So take it upon yourself to continue to inform yourself about this music and the context in which you're interpreting it. I just want to, we did a lot of loud playing just now. We were just talking about articulation and loud playing, but I want to talk about just like ensemble, like an ensemble passage that's soft, because that can be just as difficult to have everyone play together softly. So can I hear pick up to E? Pick up to E. And let me hear just, can the hi-hat play like kind of light, crisp quarter notes on the hi-hat, like light quarter notes, and I actually want you guys to sing it first. And I want you guys to think quiet intensity, okay? It's quiet, but it should be very, very crisp, okay? A lot of attitude, So like overdo anytime you have a staccato, or anytime you have a and a 4 with the rest succeeding it, right? So it should sound something like this. Right? Can everyone sing it with that kind of attitude? Quiet intensity. Okay, here we go. A little hi-hat. 1, 2. Everyone sing it like you're gonna play it. 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. Go, go. Go, go. Go, go. Don't rush. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, that's pretty good. That could be a lot. That could be even more intense. You know, you guys are, down in the weeds. You guys are a little shy now. You weren't doing that so much when you were playing for real, right? Okay, so a little more intense. Okay, quiet intensity. Like really clip these notes. You know, when it needs to be, and maybe like when you have something, when you have a note that holds for more than a couple beats, give it a shape. Lead players, give it like a, hit it and then come up, back off, come back up. Okay, one more time. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. And then he was saying about like having that feel. Like you should think at least on this style. I'm almost thinking oftentimes yes triplets. It's just kind of your lowest common denominator, lowest subdivision. But I'm almost thinking almost more like when I have do. It's written, sometimes there's eighth notes, sometimes there's dotted eighth, 16th, right?
It doesn't mean a darn different thing.
In my opinion, it sometimes does actually. So the context will determine. Listen to the music.
What you're doing is you're giving yourself away. You're not hearing that. You're hearing da 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 da. Not ba da do ba do da do da ba da.
Yeah.
Not 16 doesn't mean swing harder, but it depends on that. Usually it's used totally in the swing.
Yeah. There's a lot of discrepancies in published music these days, and even this was like published in the 70s or something. It doesn't matter really what it says. I mean, whatever it says on the page, you guys decide how you're going to exactly swing it. If it's going to be more closer to dotted 8, 16th, or triplet, But I think more in the style like dotted 8, 16th than ride. In fact, there was a couple moments, I can't remember which drummer, there was a couple moments I met in this chart where you were almost like double dotted. You were like 2 dotted, in my opinion. So just, for what it's worth, just don't go over on the other extreme and like play 2 dotted, right? Don't be like ding, dick, getting, when everyone else is going do da do, right? And then some people are going do da do, like triplets. So everyone has to kind of agree on whatever it's going to be, regardless of what the ink on the page says. You got to agree. So now let me hear you play this passage, just like you sang it. If not more intense than you just sang it. Okay. So really search for those moments of like daylight between the notes, the silence between the notes. Okay. Let's get everybody playing. Okay. Here we go. Pick up to E. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. I could use a little more. Trumpet, go ahead and just play a little more outside. Does it say to play in the stand? Yeah. Okay, never mind.
You don't need to play in the stand.
Yeah. Okay.
You got playing with a lot of air, maybe right now.
You guys are. I can sense that you're making some progress. It's not overnight. It's not going to happen in 5 minutes. But you guys are on track. You have a lot of really good stuff happening. Keep working on the things we talked about, and keep doing the things that you're doing right. And thanks for playing for us today.
Have a hand for the clinicians here. Awesome. On behalf of the JENerations Jazz Festival, I got this really cool certificate for the band. So here you go, guys. Thanks for coming. All right. Check that out. Beautiful, right? Yeah. All right. Thank you.